Hello, welcome back to the Howard County Library YouTube channel. I'm Eric. I'm with the Elk Ridge branch. It's a beautiful spring day out here. My dog has recently discovered cicadas, so he's hunting around for those. What I'd like to go over today is this planter. I just made this one. This is the complete project, so we'll kind of do it in reverse. I painted it. I used some prime boards to make it. I kind of wanted a more modern look. I'm pretty proud of it. My significant other likes it, so I'm really happy about that too. But this is something that you can do. It's relatively easy. You can learn a lot of sort of basic carpentry skills, kind of all the intro stuff that you can build on to do more advanced DIY projects. You can make this out of a variety of materials. As I said, this is some primed 1x because I wanted to paint it. You could use pallet lumber. You could use any kind of exterior wood. So you could use like a cedar. You could use a redwood. And that's about it on that. Without further explanation, let's get down to how we would build this step by step. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so as I said before, you can use a variety of things. What I'm going to use here, because we're going to paint this, is I'm going to use what they call primed finger jointed 1x4s. We had an idea of how large we wanted to make this planter box, so we were thinking about 20-20 square. However, basically the way I tend to do things, and you can choose to do this differently, instead of cutting things or wasting any material, I kind of line up the material and then decide how big it's going to be based on that. So in this case, I'm going to use these 1x4s. I'm using these are hardwood flooring spacers, but I tend to use these for a lot of different things to put space in between anything, and they come in very handy for that. So, and I don't want these to be stacked right up. I want a little bit of a line to show there, and then we paint it. I feel like it'll look really nice. So there we go. I'm using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, nice odd number. I'm putting these spacers in between here. So that's basically what the side of the planter is going to look like. And as I said, I'm going to go for kind of a more modern look. We'll get into the other looks you can make sort of at the end there. So I put these together. I'm going to take my tape, and I'm going to look down here, and it is measuring about 17 7/8, which is a little over 3/4. As I said, see our other videos, get to know your tape measure. Could I make the boards? So what I'll do with this number is, then I'm going to make them that long. So to be as tall as it is long, square. Is it going to be a perfect square? No. And I'm okay with that. To the naked eye, you won't notice. If you have guests at your house and they're measuring your planter boxes to make sure they're perfectly square, you may need to reconsider the guests that you're having over there. That's just a personal advice. So at any rate, I got that lined up. Now I'm going to put this here because I am thinking that I'm going to have a little ledge inside the box, and that'll become more apparent as we go, and we'll take a look at that. And then the other thing I'm going to do at the bottom, so this is going to be the bottom right here. I'm going to leave some space down there, and so that way I can put some little legs on there to keep it a little bit off the ground. Not real tall, just a little bit so the water doesn't get under there, but you'll see. And then I'm going to need a floor too, which I'm not going to have at the bottom of the box. So, and I'm just going to eyeball this. So my floor is going to be right about here, bottom of the planter, and then I'm going to mark it. So also, there's a nice plug. Go to hclibrary.org/DIY and you can see all the great stuff we got in for spring. Now back to the project. So legs down here. And this would be the floor. So now what I'm measuring this for, so I put my mark here, put my mark up here. What I'm going to measure for is the frame I'm going to build on the inside. So since I'm thinking I'm going to make this a clean, no outside kind of edges or anything like that, I'm going to need a frame on the inside so I can nail it together. Still essentially making a box. So then I put this down here. So I got about 14 3/4. Okay, and so what I'm going to do now, always keep your measurements too. So I'm going to go 18 and 14 3/4. And then now we'll get to the saw and we'll start cutting all the boards. We'll cut them all at one time. Okay, so an important step is measuring before you cut. We'll get into the cutting after this. So I measured and it's at 17 7/8, but I decided I'm going to go to 18. It'll just be easier to remember. I have to cut 5 times 4 sides. I have to cut 20 pieces, so I'll just keep it at 18. So tape measure, pencil, make the mark at 18. And remember, we want to cut on, this is a good handy trick to always use. This is the piece you want gone. You'll probably remember this piece because it's long, but sometimes you have pieces that are equal length. And then remember, you want your saw to come down right on this side so you have 18 inches. Now, we're not making cabinets, it's not that important, but it's still good to try to get as close as you possibly can. So there we go, that goes, that stays. Now let's get the saw going. Okay, so this will be our close-up. So you can see there's an anti-hand sign here. So what that means is don't have your hands over here. Keep your hands as far away from the blade. I always tell people when the blade is spinning, your hands should be perfectly still. So keep that in mind. I'm going to line this up like so. I'm going to bring this down without turning it on. And I'm going to look at that and say, okay, well, it looks like I'm pretty good there. And if you feel like you want to get more comfortable and make the line all the way across there, that is a good idea too, especially if you're beginning. So that looks pretty good to me. So what I'm going to do, as I said before, I'm going to start it up. It needs to be moving before you cut, and I'm going to bring it down very, very slowly. I'm going to let the saw do the work, and that is that. So let's go. Wonderful. All right, so we have seen close up. Now we'll see a small up. I got my friend here with me. His brother is laying over there because he's not as interested. He's seen the show. This guy, however, is curious. Okay, so let's look at the miter saw. All right, compound miter saw. Borrow this from us at the Elk Ridge Library, which is really great. Really nice tool. You can do miters, meaning angles. And it's great. It's easier than using a circular saw for something like this. It's a little heavy, but you just set it up and then you're going. You can cut more than one at a time. So I'm going to do here. And you can also use the pieces that you cut to make the mark. We want everything to be the same. Let's put a little mark there. Put our piece over here. Bring down our blade without turning it on yet. Looks pretty good right there. Remember, ear protection, mask. I know you wear masks a lot, but it's good. If you're cutting a lot, you don't want to inhale all that sawdust. Safety glasses, and then let's cut. Remember where your hands go. They don't. When the saw is moving, your hands aren't. Keep them about 6 inches away. Loose body posture. Take your time. Don't need to be in a rush. There we go. Okay, so now we have all of our pieces cut, all 20. And as I said, I was setting this up because I may want to, it'll make sense when we're finished. I may want to put a ledge there, but imagine this is the inside and all this will become more apparent as we go along. So I line these up so we'll have some stability on the sides and something to nail into or screw into, whatever the case may be. Remember, the glue, it always holds better than the nails or the screws. So get yourself some carpenter's glue, put that in there. And I'm gonna put this piece here. So you could screw this together, you could hand nail this together. We do not have nail guns at the time, pneumatic nailers or battery powered nailers at this time. Hopefully someday we will. But so you can screw it. So what I would recommend is put the glue on there, nailing, screwing, remember? Drill, you can borrow this from DIY. It's a used piece that has a hole in it, but that's all right. You always want to drill a pilot hole, so let's make a little pilot hole. And remember, try not to go all the way through. Pilot hole should be about as big as the screw without the thread, so the threads catch. So you should always eye that up. A little tighter is fine, obviously. Make sure the screws aren't too long, and when you get your screws, whatever brand or whatever they are, so these are deck screws, get something that's deck, they call it deck exterior galvanized, something like this, because this is going to be out in the weather. It might be under your porch or something like this, but still it's going to be out in the weather. So then put your screw in there. Let's get our impact driver. Again, you can borrow this guy from DIY. Make sure we are all lined up. That's the good thing about screws though, is if you mess up, you can take them out and you can do it again. but I want to make sure everything is flush, everything is all set. The first screw is probably the most important, but that looks all good. If you feel like you need to clamp it, go for it. I'm just going to drive this down, slow bits like that, and there we go. Make sure it's a little countersunk, and that is great. And there we go. Okay. So as I said, driving screws is fine. However, if you have access to a pneumatic nailer or an automatic nailer, or if you want to go rent one, it may be worth your time. They takes a little training, a little knowledge. It can be a very dangerous tool, so always use it safely. Again, safety goggles, ear protection, things of that nature. But you can imagine how fast this would go if I'm just going to nail it together, which I am. And go on like that, nail this piece, and then we'll get to the next part. All right, so now we have both of our sides designed and built. And remember, so the point of these on the side here, not only to make the first two sides, but also so we'll have something to nail and screw into right there to give it a little more stability. I used some scrap wood that I ripped, used a table saw and cut in half just to reuse something, and I had it laying around, so it's perfect for that. And let us put our wood glue on these again, and we will put our other slats on there. And again, nail it, screw it, whatever you like to do, whatever you can do. You can nail it with the old-fashioned way, hammer and nail. We're going to put each slat on here. You may need to get a helper. And this is important because you really want it to be right, perfect, and square. Start one side at a time. Safety up. Make these all even. If you want to get your spacers back out, it can't hurt. Just try everything you can to keep it nice and straight and nice and level. Okay, so here we are on the other side. So I already put a nail here, glue in there. It's going to bend in a little bit. So what you're going to have to do, no matter what you're doing, is push this out a little bit and hold it in place while you get yourself set. You just have to have faith in the fact that you did it perfectly and that you have all your measurements correct. And that's what I'm going to have faith in myself here. Safety glasses on. That's neat. Remember, the first one set on there just right. Got your fingers. And there we have it. Alright, on and on we go. And remember, if any of them are a bit too long, there's always a good opportunity that if you feel like it's hanging over a little too much or you're not satisfied with it, just take it back over the miter saw, cut it off a little bit, and fit it right back on there. Nobody's perfect. You might not get the cuts perfect the first time. All right, and I'll continue on here. All right, so I think that's a good stopping point. So hopefully you'll join me next week, same time, our County Library YouTube channel for the epic conclusion of how we build a planter. I'll see you then. Thanks.